Please subscribe and hit that bell button. It is so special to be able to listen to Alan Watts read his biography from his book, In My Own Way. Enjoy.
Never for a moment have I regretted that I forgetfully reincarnated myself as the child of Lawrence Wilson Watts and Emily Mary Buchan at Rowan Tree Cottage in Holbrook Lane, in the village of Chislehurst, Kent, England, almost due south of Greenwich, on the morning of January the 6th, 1915, at about 20 minutes after 6, with the sun in Capricorn, conjuncted with Mars and Mercury, and in trine to a moon in Virgo, with Sagittarius rising. In going back over one's past, one remembers all too much foolishness. Yet, how can I forgive anyone else if I don't forgive myself? And how can I believe that now, as I have become and matured, I am no longer a fool? Basically, my own laughter at myself has something to do with the incongruity of such a clown being God in disguise, of the big act called Alan Watts being a manifestation of the infinite energy of the universe. As I witness the universe getting away with me, I wonder what other uproarious deceptions it will perpetrate. I am a mystic in spite of myself, remaining as much of an irreducible rascal as I am, as a standing example of God's continuing compassion for sinners, or, if you will, of Buddha nature in a dog, or of light shining in darkness. Come to think of it, in what else could it shine? Since the age of 42, I have been a freelance, a rolling stone, and a shaman, as distinct from a priest. For the shaman gets his magic alone in the mountains and forests, whereas a priest gets his from being ordained by a guru or bishop. The first, the shaman that is, goes with the culture of nomads and hunters, and the second with cultures of agrarians or industrialists. Although I am unofficially and on the side an ordained priest of the Anglican Communion, my genes must have come from the nomads of Europe, and my reincarnation from the Taoist poets of China, or the Yamabushi or mountain hermits of Japan. I'm gregarious, but I like to be left alone. My existence is a coincidence of opposites. On the one hand, I'm a shameless egotist. I like to talk, entertain, and hold the center of the stage. On the other, I realize quite clearly that the ego named Alan Watts is an illusion, a social institution, a fabrication of words and symbols without the slightest substantial reality. Nevertheless, I know, too, that this temporary pattern, this process, is a function, a doing, a karma, in just the same way as the sun, the galaxy, or shall we be bold to say Jesus Christ or Gautama the Buddha? How can I say this without offense, without seeming proud, haughty, and pretentious? I simply and even humbly know that I am the eternal. Yet, the idea of my coming on as a messiah or great guru just breaks me up with laughter. Because, at the same time, I am an unrepentant sensualist. I am an immoderate lover of women and the delights of sexuality, of the greatest French, Chinese, and Japanese cuisine, of wines and spirituous drinks, of smoking cigars and pipes, of gardens, forests and oceans, of jewels and paintings, of colourful clothes and of finely bound and printed books. I have also an attraction to being a no-strings-attached Taoist wanderer in the mountains, cloud-hidden, whereabouts unknown. And, when the mood suits me, I also like to practice Buddhist meditation in the Zen or Tibetan Dzogchen style, which is simply sitting quietly or walking rhythmically without thoughts or verbalizations in your head. Walking meditation I have always preferred to long periods of sitting, for one reason. When walking, there is no need for others to know that you are meditating and thus to feel guilty or embarrassed for not doing likewise. For another, the self-consciousness of sitting in a special way, of having a special time or place for the practice, does not obtrude itself. Thus, I could go out for a walk, under the pretext of taking the air, or pace the floor, seeming to be thinking out a book, and yet be absorbed in mystical silence of the mind. And oddly enough, at the same time, it didn't really occur to me that I was practicing meditation, so that I've always considered myself rather lazy and haphazard in respect of this discipline. I didn't think of myself as doing an exercise, but simply as exploring a state of consciousness out of sheer interest. A Christian writer has said that the monk prays best who does not know that he is praying. I see religion as I see such other basic fascinations as art and science, in which there is room for many different approaches, styles, techniques, and opinions. Thus, I am not formally a committed member of any creed or sect, and hold no particular religious view or doctrine as absolute. I deplore missionary zeal, and consider exclusive dedication to and advocacy of any particular religion as either the best or the only true way, an almost irreligious arrogance. Yet my work and my life are fully concerned with religion, and the mystery of being is my supreme fascination. If I'm asked to define my personal tastes in religion, I must say that they lie between Mahayana Buddhism and Taoism, with a certain leaning towards Vedanta and Catholicism, or rather, the Orthodox Church of Eastern Europe. The Russian cathedral in Paris is, for me, one of the most joyous shrines in the world. But I am still more at home in the serene and non-militant atmosphere of such Buddhist sanctuaries as Koyasan and Chionin, where the deep and sonorous chant is measured by the easy pulse of a wooden drum, where pines and maples stand beyond the open screens, and the smoke of aloes wood, incense, hangs in the air. When I was about 17, I was still reading Suzuki on Zen and trying to practice some form of Buddhist yoga, Zazen or Satipatthana, and simply couldn't make up my mind which specific method to follow, or exactly what state of consciousness was Satori, Samadhi, Moksha, or true enlightenment. I had no spiritual master. I was a shaman on my own, in a religious jungle. When, at Canterbury in England, I had become the head boy of my house, I had the privilege of going off by myself to study and meditate in an ancient Elizabethan room, where one could light a fire and stay up until late at night. It was in the autumn of 1932, windy, with fallen leaves skittering along the roads and fields. And I was trying desperately to work out this problem. What is the experience which these Oriental masters are talking about? The different ideas of it which I had in mind seemed to be approaching me like little dogs wanting to be petted, and suddenly I shouted at all of them to go away. I annihilated and bawled out every theory and concept of what should be my properly spiritual state of mind, or of what should be meant by me. And instantly my weight vanished. I owned nothing. All hang-ups disappeared. I walked on air. And thereupon I composed a haiku, all forgotten and set aside, wind scattering leaves over the fields. And one evening, when Eleanor, my first wife, and I were walking home from a meditation session at the Buddhist Society, I began to discuss the method of concentration on the eternal present. Whereupon she said, "Why try to concentrate on it? What else is there to be aware of? Your memories are all in the present just as much as the trees over there. Your thoughts about the future are also in the present. The present is just a constant flow, like the Tao, and there's simply no way of getting out of it." With that remark, my whole sense of weight vanished. You could have knocked me down with a feather. I realized that when the Hindus said, "Tattvamasi," you are that, they meant just what they said. For a whole week thereafter, I simply floated, remembering my friend Professor Spiegelberg's telling me of the 6 precepts of the Tibetan master Tilopa. No thought, no reflection, no analysis, no cultivation, no intention. Let it settle itself. Now, this was doubtless a premature satori, for I was unable to resist the temptation to write, think, and intellectualize about it. Yet when I'm in my right mind, I still know that this is the true way of life, at least for me. Conscious thought, reflection, analysis, cultivation, and intention are simply using the mind's radar or scanning beam for purposes which the mind as a whole can do of itself and of its own with far more intelligence and less effort. So, from the beginning, I was never interested in being good at Zen in the sense of mastering a traditional discipline, as, for example, in studying the piano with Schnabel, to the point where my recordings of the Beethoven sonatas would be indistinguishable from his. I had already done that kind of thing. And the point here is not to boast, but to explain the real nature of my interest in Zen. For I had, without any formal teacher, unquestionably mastered the art of public speaking, and in the church had become as expert a liturgist as anyone. What I was after was therefore not so much discipline as understanding. And so far as I was concerned, the formal study of Zen was a kind of busy behavior, to sit hour after hour and day after day with aching legs, to unravel Hakuin's tricky system of dealing with koan, to subsist on tea, pickles, and brown rice, or to master Dogen's ritual style of life was, although as good in its own way as learning to sail, not what I needed to know. What I saw in Zen was an intuitive way of understanding the sense of life by getting rid of silly quests and questions. The archetypal situation was when Hueca asked Bodhidharma how to attain peace of mind. Bodhidharma said, "Bring your mind out and I will pacify it." "But when I look for it," said Hueca, "I can't find it." "In that case," the master concluded, "it's pacified already." Isn't that crazy? It is thus that almost every morning when I first awaken, I have a feeling of total clarity as to the sense of life. A feeling of myself and the universe as a matter of the utmost simplicity. I and that which is are the same. Always have been, always will be. There's simply nothing special to be achieved, realized, or performed.
Much gratitude. Thank you, Alan Watts. Alan Watts says, "The meaning of life is to be alive." It is so plain, so obvious, and so simple. And yet, everybody rushes around in a great panic as if it were necessary to achieve something beyond themselves. Marvelous says, "The foresightedness of this genius is uncanny. His vision and ability to patch together the truth of the meaning of life. The answer is so simple." Marvelous says, "Respect to all masters, for without then we will not be so easily enlightened." Eventually, you will become aware that this happenings isn't happening to you, because you are the happening. Alan Watts.
This could be good for me. Lately I was feeling like I need a purpose.